I always believed I knew everything about Mark, my husband of 7 years. His laughter, his touch, his familiar routines had been the constants in my life. But that weekend, as we wound our way up the twisting mountain roads to visit his old college friend, Tom, something felt different. Mark's eyes gleamed with a mischief I hadn't seen in years, as if he were on the verge of revealing a secret that could change everything. The crisp mountain air carried the whispers of the trees, an almost conspiratorial murmur that set my nerves tingling. As we stepped into Tom's world, a place where time seemed to slow and the usual rules felt distant, I sensed an excitement I hadn't realized I was missing. When Mark suggested a game of truth or dare, I had no idea it would lead us down a path where the boundaries of our marriage would blur in ways I never imagined. What happened next would forever alter the foundation of our relationship, leaving me to wonder, was this the start of something new, or the unraveling of everything we had built? People say I, Sarah, am not easily surprised. At 32, I've crafted a life as predictable as the sunrise. But then there's Mark, unpredictable, always carrying an air of mystery. His eyes constantly shimmer with the promise of secrets waiting to be unveiled. When he proposed a weekend getaway to visit Tom, I was intrigued. As we navigated the winding roads, Mark was practically buzzing with excitement, filling the car with stories of college pranks and adventures shared with his old friend. I looked forward to escaping our usual city routine, to breathing in the crisp mountain air and perhaps reconnecting with a wilder, freer spirit, something Tom always seemed to embody. Tom's house felt like stepping into another dimension. Nestled among towering pines, it exuded a timeless aura. The moment we arrived, Tom greeted us with a bear hug, his scent a mix of paint and patchouli. His home was an extension of his soul. Walls adorned with vibrant canvases, the air thick with incense. We settled in, wine glasses in hand, conversation flowing effortlessly. Tom's tales wove a tapestry of adventure, passion, and defiance of convention. He spoke of starry nights, fleeting love affairs, and moments that defied societal expectations. Mark laughed, eyes alight with nostalgia, while I found myself drawn into Tom's world, a realm where the rules felt malleable, the edges blurred. As the evening deepened, the wine poured freely, and the atmosphere took on a life of its own. The playful chatter turned more intimate, more revealing. Then Mark, with that familiar glint in his eye, leaned in, his voice a hushed challenge. "Let's play truth or dare." A smirk played at his lips as his gaze swept over us. We laughed, the sound bouncing off the high ceilings, but an undercurrent of anticipation rippled beneath the surface. At first, the game was harmless. Tom dared Mark to mimic an old college professor, sending us into fits of laughter. I chose truth, confessing to a long-forgotten crush on a high school teacher, which earned me a playful, raised eyebrow from Mark. But as the night wore on, the dares grew bolder. The truths became more intimate. And then came the moment that shifted everything. Mark, a mischievous smile playing on his lips, turned to me. "Sarah," he said, his voice dripping with challenge, "I dare you to kiss Tom." A hush fell over the room. The only sound was the soft crackling of the fire in the hearth. My pulse quickened, not just from the wine, but from the undeniable tension that now filled the space between us. I looked at Tom. His eyes met mine, reflecting surprise, curiosity, and something else. For a brief moment, time seemed to stand still. The air in the room felt dense, charged with an unspoken question. I could sense Mark's gaze fixed on us, his breath held in suspense. Taking a steadying inhale, I leaned in, my lips grazing Tom's in what was meant to be a light-hearted kiss. But it lingered, stretching beyond mere playfulness. In that fleeting moment, the lines between friendship and something more began to blur. As I pulled away, the taste of Tom's lips still lingered, a mix of wine and something uniquely his. Silence settled over the room, broken only by the soft crackling of the fire. Mark's eyes flickered with intrigue, but there was something else in his expression, something elusive, He finally broke the silence, his voice even yet laced with an unmistakable edge. "That was interesting," Mark said, his gaze shifting between Tom and me. "But let's take it a step further." He stood, his movements deliberate, retrieving his phone from his pocket before setting it up on a tripod. The action was purposeful, his tone both commanding and inviting. "I want to record this," he announced. A rush of conflicting emotions coursed through me. Surprise, hesitation, but also an undeniable thrill. The sudden shift into the surreal scenario sent my pulse racing. The idea of being filmed added an unexpected intensity, making the moment feel both vividly real and oddly dreamlike. Tom, ever the free spirit, simply nodded in agreement, his eyes reflecting the flickering flames, an undeniable spark of adventure within them. I turned to Mark, searching his face for doubt, for hesitation. But I found none. Instead, his expression held nothing but eager anticipation. With a deep breath, I gave my answer. "Okay," I murmured, my voice barely above a whisper. "But let's keep it tasteful." The word felt oddly placed in this context, a feeble attempt at setting a boundary that already felt tenuous. Mark adjusted the camera, ensuring the perfect angle. A red light blinked to life, silent proof that we were now on record. The air in the room thickened, crackling with electric tension. Tom stepped closer, his fingers gently tilting my chin up, his touch sending a shiver cascading down my spine. "Are you sure?" he asked, his voice low, giving me one last chance to step away. I nodded, my heart pounding in my chest, the unknown mingling with the comfort of familiarity. This kiss was different, slower, deliberate, infused with awareness. We both knew the camera was watching, unblinking, capturing every movement. Mark's voice broke the silence occasionally, steady yet firm, offering instructions, guiding us. Tom, now fully immersed in the moment, moved with intention, his hands mapping new yet familiar territory. The room pulsed with an almost tangible energy, the boundaries of our relationship shifting. A blend of emotions swirled inside me, confusion, exhilaration, and an odd sense of liberation. Through the lens, Mark observed, his expression unreadable. The presence of the camera added a surreal edge to the experience, making it feel more like a performance than reality. As Tom and I continued, Mark's voice interjected, either directing or checking in, his calm authority anchoring the moment. The situation was surreal, yet there was an undeniable allure to the forbidden. Tom's touch was at once familiar and foreign, a contradiction that sent my mind spinning. His fingers traced the contours of my face, his breath warm against my skin, and instinctively I responded. The room seemed to shrink, the world outside fading to nothing. It was just the three of us, suspended in this moment. Mark's voice, steady and instructive, guided us, encouraging us to lock eyes, to convey emotion through movement. The lens zoomed in, capturing every nuance, every subtle shift in expression. The red recording light blinked rhythmically, a pulsing reminder that this night would extend beyond the present. Existing in memory and on film, the act of performing under Mark's watchful, I introduced an unexpected intensity, as though we were characters in a carefully scripted drama, guided by his desires and vision. When Tom's lips met mine again, the kiss deepened, exploring, as if we were both searching for something unspoken. Mark's voice cut through the tension. "Sarah, tilt your head back slightly. Tom, let your hand rest on her waist." His instructions were measured, almost detached, yet they only heightened the moment's intensity. I felt myself drawn into this unfamiliar dynamic, the very foundation of my marriage shifting in ways I hadn't foreseen. As Tom and I moved together, the camera capturing every moment, I sensed a transformation. Mark wasn't just an observer. He was directing, orchestrating. His control over the scene was both unnerving and electrifying. The act itself ended swiftly, but the weight of it lingered, stretching far beyond the moment. Mark finally stopped the recording, his expression a complex mix of satisfaction and something else, pride perhaps, or relief. Tom took a step back, glancing between us with curiosity and a trace of concern. The silence that followed was dense, heavy with unspoken questions. What this meant for our relationships, our trust, and what would come next. A storm of emotions swirled inside me. The closeness I'd shared with Tom under Mark's gaze had been undeniably intense, but now, in the stillness, the reality of it settled in. Mark's eyes lingered on me, searching for something: regret, intrigue, a desire to push further. Tom was the first to break the silence, his voice quiet but steady. That was unexpected. His words hung between us, a soft acknowledgment of the threshold we had crossed. I swallowed, my voice barely above a whisper. Yeah. The energy in the room had shifted, morphing into something equally thrilling and unsettling. Mark finally spoke, his tone even measured. I think we all needed that. He was attempting to frame it as a shared experience, something that made sense. But no words could simplify what had just happened. I turned to Tom, his expression mirroring my own conflicted thoughts. There was a connection between us now, one that had been deepened by this strange intimacy, but overshadowed by Mark's role, not just as a spectator, but as the architect of the entire experience. The night had taken us into uncharted territory, where the lines between friendship and something more had blurred beyond recognition. Mark's decision to record had transformed it into something surreal, something that felt both staged and deeply personal. As I stood there, the implications of our choices began to unravel in my mind. What did this mean for my marriage? For our friendship with Tom? Morning brought clarity, but also a different kind of weight. The three of us sat around the breakfast table, the echoes of the previous night still hanging in the air like an unspoken secret. Mark was the first to break the silence, his voice steady. Last night was something we did together, a shared experience. He looked between Tom and me, his expression unreadable. He went on to explain that he had always harbored fantasies of watching, of sharing, but had never known how to bring it up. The setting, the game, the moment, it had all created the perfect, if unconventional, opportunity. Tom, looking contemplative, hesitated before speaking. I hope I didn't overstep. Mark shook his head. It was my idea, my desire. For me, the experience had been a revelation about my own boundaries, about the intricacies of trust and love. We agreed that this needed discussion, that we had to truly understand each other's emotions before moving forward. What was meant to be a simple getaway had instead become a journey of self-discovery and confrontation. We sipped our coffee in silence, each lost in thought. Then Mark spoke again, more reflective this time. I've always felt like there was more to explore, not just in our relationship, but in life. Last night, it felt like we were all on the same page, exploring together. Tom nodded, his gaze thoughtful. I didn't expect it to go that far, but I'm not sorry it did. It was enlightening. His voice carried a mix of relief and curiosity. I inhaled deeply, feeling the weight of everything pressing down on me. It was intense and, yes, unexpected, but it made me question a lot about what I want, about what we want. As a couple, as friends, each word felt heavy, laden with the emotions of the night before. Mark reached across the table, his hand covering mine. We need to talk about this. Openly, honestly. We need to set boundaries, understand each other's needs and limits. This isn't just about last night. It's about what comes next. And with that, the conversation shifted from raw, tangled emotions to a more analytical discussion. We spoke of consent, of trust, of what this meant for us moving forward. What had begun as a game had turned into something much bigger, something none of us could ignore. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear: nothing would be the same again.